Hello, everyone. Good afternoon or good evening. Good evening, everyone. Hi. Hello, everyone. I'm just going to wait for people to come on and wait for Mr. Belo-Osagie to also come on as well. Hi. Hi, Tosi. Yes. Okay, so I'm bringing him on now. Hi, everyone. I hope you guys can see me clearly, you can hear me clearly, everything. Okay, welcome to Durosinmi-Etti's Instagram. I'm just waiting for Mr. Belus, I guess, to come on. He's already here, so it's just for him to come on it. He's requested already as well. Hi. Hello. Okay. Let me check. Okay.
All right. You can hear me?
Yes, I can very well. It's better
Oh,
now.
all right then. All right then. I will start again by thanking you. And I want to thank you very much for inviting me for this occasion. I wanted to begin by acknowledging event that took place in the early hours of this morning, the passing away of Malam Abba Kiari. Malam Abba Kiari is an individual that I first met in 1977, and since then we have enjoyed a good and long relationship. He was a lawyer, he was a banker, he was a public servant, and also a journalist. Very much a patriot with a social conscience, a gentleman, and a very able person. I'd like to express my condolences to his wife Kulu and to his four children, Aisha, Ibrahim, Nuruddin, and Zainab. And I would ask that we all observe 1 minute silence in honor and in memory of him and all those people who have passed away due to the corona-related illnesses. 1 minute silence, please. May all their gentle souls rest in peace. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, sir.
All right. So let me talk a little bit about how we got to where we are in Nigeria. And I think the first thing that is important that you all bear in mind is that Nigeria had already been in a recession for 2 or 3 years as a result in the drop in oil prices. The plan was and the thought was that we would be coming out of the recession this year. And that's why we looked forward at the new year to a much better year than we had had in the past. There was an illness in China. At that time, it looked like something that was occurring in a faraway place. But that virus that was spreading, after a while, moved to Europe, and its first area where it wreaked most havoc was in Italy. But of course, after Italy, it then moved to other parts of Europe as well. Now, Europe in particular, and the rest of the world where this virus had spread to, had to solve the medical problem of how to protect the population and how to arrest the spread. And they did so by locking down, which effectively meant you were inducing an economic coma, you would say, in Europe, North America, and indeed in the rest of the world. Now, once you locked down and economic activity ceased, it meant that the demand for oil dropped precipitously. As you know, 80–90% of the foreign exchange earnings for Nigeria come from our oil exports. And it was obvious that that would have a dramatic effect on our earnings. What worsened the impact on Nigeria was the fact that supply of oil was also increasing due to the competition and the ambitions of Saudi Arabia, Russia, and the United States shale oil producers were the three largest producers in the market. The result was a collapse in the oil price. Now, this is what Nigeria has faced. Now, it has been worsened by the fact that we now have within our country several individuals who have succumbed to this virus, and so we ourselves now have a health problem as well. And we have tried, the government has tried to respond to that in a manner that will, on the one hand, solve the health problem, and on the other hand, not have too dramatic an impact on the economy. We being a country which has a very large informal sector, we being a country in which social distancing is not easy, we being a country in which, while you're telling people to wash their hands regularly, large numbers of our population don't have water, we being a country in which we say to people, if you can't wash your hands with soap and water, please use sanitizers. Sanitizers are only available to a very small percentage of the population. And we being a nation in which most people live from day to day and don't have substantial savings, the remedy of locking down imposes substantial costs on Nigeria as a country. Now, we have a weak health infrastructure, and therefore our capacity to deal with large groups of ill people is substantially constrained. So that basically is the context that we're in right now. That's how we got there, and it is within that context that we're trying to respond. So I hope I've painted a clear picture of where we are right now and how we got there.
Thank you very much, sir. So how long do you think this is going to last for? You know, what are your projections? You know, how long? What should we expect?
Well, I think that I have to answer that question in two aspects. One, to think through what are the things that we need to do to solve the problem. Okay? And when we go through the things that we need to do, you can then come to an analysis of how long it will take. Now, in reality, the only absolute solution to this problem is the creation of an effective vaccine. That really is the only absolute solution to the health problem. And by all accounts, what we hear from the medical experts is that that is unlikely to come until early 2021, optimistically, mid or late 2001, likely. All right, so we should bear that in mind, which tells us that we shouldn't be thinking about a return to normal all right, until 2022. All right. Now,
Wow.
in the period between where we are right now and that particular time, what are we all trying to do? We're trying to reduce the number of fatalities that we incur from this virus, and we're really trying to do that by trying to, one, build up our medical capacity. We need to do that by, we need more beds, we need more oxygen, we need more ventilators, we need more of some of the medicines that appear to arrest the development, or at least appear to sort out some of the symptoms without actually curing it. We need to do that. And we need to observe some form of social distancing that slows down the rate of transmission of the virus, okay, from one individual to another individual. And we need to do that in a manner in which, all right, doesn't incur huge costs on the population, okay? Then we need to find a way in which food and financial assistance can go to the most vulnerable members of the society, to the poor and to the low income. Because if we don't do that, we may end up losing more people from hunger and nutrition and other illnesses than, in fact, may pass away from the coronavirus. So that's one aspect of it. And then the second aspect of it is that on the oil side, we have got to sell our oil. We have got to reduce our cost of production. Our cost of production is very high. And if oil is as low as $20, $25 a barrel, and your cost of production is at $20 a barrel, you're not doing well at all. We've got to solve that problem. And we've got to accelerate the continuing efforts to create a non-oil basis for our economy, which we have been talking about for decades, but which right now is imperative. So I would like to say I know that I can see a lot of people saying that 2022 sounds a long way away, all right? But I think we need to be realistic in that sense, and I think that we should right now be focusing very much on what do we do about the poor within our society, and very much on how do we socially distance to reduce transmissions without at the same time wreaking havoc on our country's economy.
Wow. Wow, that's some great insights right there. But how do you think, or what do you think will be the greatest impact of COVID on the economy? How will businesses fare? We know that some new regulations are going to come up. What should we expect from these sort of new regulations that are going to come up? How should business behave in the next couple of weeks, months, if possible 1 year, like you advised? How do you think we should cope and fare?
Yeah, okay. Now, the impact on the economy, first of all, because this is a very unusual crisis in the sense that in most crises that we've had before, Nigeria has been in crisis, but the rest of the world has not necessarily been in crisis. Or it may be that oil-producing countries are in crisis, but non-oil producing countries are not in crisis. But this is an unusual crisis in that there's crisis in every part of the world. Now, so first impact is that all the external inputs to our economy, all the things that we are buying from outside, and there are lots of things we're buying outside, we should expect that they will be more expensive, they may not be available, all right? And they may not be available in the time and the quantities we want, because a lot of those other countries have themselves locked down. And as they're gearing up to start again, that will take some time. So first impact is that you will find that all your external input will be problematic. And therefore, one of the things that we should all be doing is we should be trying to source domestically for a lot of our inputs in our businesses, even if those domestic resource inputs may not be of as high quality as they would have been otherwise. So that's one thing impact you're going to see. The next impact you're going to see is that there will be great pressures on the foreign exchange rate. Okay, pressures due to the fact that our main source of dollars, all right, that the quantity is going to be reduced. And you should also expect that the other large quantity of dollars that we enjoy, which is remittances from Nigerians abroad, we should expect that it may not be growing as it has been in the past. It may actually reduce because the countries they're living in are themselves under recession. So we'll also see that impact. We should also expect that as we move forward, restrictions on travel will be more serious than they have been in the past. Your yellow card will be as important as your passport in traveling, and I suspect that it will not be a yellow card issued by different countries. All right, I suspect that we may have an international yellow card, or airlines may be issuing their own cards even to allow you to get on the plane. So these are the kinds of impacts that we are going to face. And I think that it is for business persons to learn and to think through how to react to all of these negative impacts, survive the 2-year period, which they are going to need, and then plan a new future from 2022 onwards.
Wow, so that means we should be looking more at made in Nigeria products, and we should just start thinking of how to start producing to feed whatever we can do in house.
Yes,
wow.
Definitely. Yes, definitely. We will need to do that. And in that regard, I think that some of the initiatives by the Central Bank of Nigeria in that respect are very much in that direction. Because of what has happened, we are seeing countries being much more nationalistic, in the sense that people are now saying, I want to make sure that most of my food is produced domestically. Most of my important pharmaceuticals are produced domestically, because I don't want a situation in which has happened right now, in which there are no flights taking place, and therefore I am short of these very critical imports. So some of the central bank initiatives to have more things manufactured domestically are very much on point and a very good thing. I think that what we do need, which we are struggling to get to, but which I think government is thinking about, is that we really do have to start thinking about how do we manage to put money in the hands of the poor, all right? How do we give liquidity to small businesses, all right? In some respects, the larger businesses that are creditworthy for banks are far more able to look after themselves than the poor and the small scale businesses. And I think that the focus has to be very much on that. And we also have to encourage and support the medical industries, and we've got to give soft loans to all those who are engaged in agriculture, especially the food part of agriculture, that ensures that the entire nation is fed, notwithstanding the crisis that we're in.
Talking about this, the CBN circular that has been going around, I've seen that they've reduced some of their interest rates from 9%, brought it down to 5%. There are a lot of soft loans that are being given to people. Do you really believe that these loans and stuff is going to really trickle down to people in low-income communities, people who really, really need this money? Do you think it's really going to trickle down, or how can we better position ourselves to get some of these loans and money that is being made available by the CBN?
Yes. Well, I think we should just look upon it as the CBN is making a sincere and serious effort in this direction. We are all in an unprecedented situation, and please, you shouldn't also forget that the savings that Nigeria had in both the excess crude account and the savings that we had, which were with our sovereign wealth fund, a lot of those savings had been run down in the last couple of years, right? And therefore, the amount of firepower that Nigeria has in order to step in and to provide this liquidity is not there. All right. So please look upon it within that context. I think that some of the actions they have taken are good actions, but I do think that we need a combination of both fiscal and monetary policies that return and address the issue of low-income groups and of the poor and the people who are in the food and agricultural industry. That's ultimately where we need to go. But it's early days yet. I think the Minister of Finance has come out with a set of proposals which were big strides in that direction. And I feel reasonably confident that we'll hear more from the government. And I think that we should very much do what we can to suggest our own ideas and respond to some of these government initiatives.
Thank you very much. I also wanted to ask your thoughts about the 5G, controversy or propaganda and all that is going on. What are your thoughts about that, especially because you know your experience and your history with telecommunications industry. So, what are your thoughts about this 5G and technology?
I must say, it has been quite fascinating reading some of the most amazing conspiracy theories about 5G. I mean, it's often accompanied by a post that supposedly has 5G equipment near at the top of the post, and then there's usually a picture with a tree that has no leaves anymore, and it's attributed to 5G. Honestly and sincerely speaking, I don't really think that 5G has anything to do with the coronavirus. Now, it is correct to say that nobody can be certain about the impact of the small amount of radiation that are emitted in the telecoms industry, but what the best experts tell us is that the impact will be over 20 years, over 30 years. It's not an impact that as you install it, people will be falling and dying of largely of respiratory illnesses. That's not going to be the case. I think that because the virus started out in China, there's a certain amount of anti-China hysteria that is going on. We shouldn't forget that the other great pandemic that took place was called the Spanish flu in the early part of the 20th century. And I think that the consensus of opinion now is that though it was called the Spanish flu, it actually started in, I believe, either Kentucky or Kansas in the United States. So I think that we should spend less time criticizing or stigmatizing the country where it appears to have started, and instead just focus on what we do. I think 5G is a very good development for the telecommunications industry and for Africa, and I think that it allows us Africans in many areas, education, in health, in banking and finance, to be able to enjoy some of these services at much cheaper rates than a bricks and mortar solution would allow us.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you very much, sir. So I've done a lot of research about your organization, the First Securities Discount House, and what I saw was, they started in back in 1992 and all of that, and you've been able to, build your businesses to the point where you even had, subsidiaries, and you were able to even go through recession and still come out, on top. So, for example, I found out that the FSDH Merchant Bank started just right after the recession that ended in 2009. So it started in 2012, and and all of that. And you're able to build your company even through the recession, take advantage of opportunities that have come along. So how were you able to do that? How were you able to motivate your employees in that period? What were some of the things that you took? What were the steps that you took to keep your company afloat? Because we have a lot of businesses right now that don't know what to do. They have salaries to be paid. They don't know where they should cut down on staff. A lot of people, they're also trying to be considerate about your employees and all of that, because we know that right now nobody's really employing like that. So what were some of the steps that you took in that time to still remain afloat, still come on top? Especially because I also saw that you were one of the first. Your merchant bank was one of the first to actually get the license So what were the steps that you took to take advantage of these opportunities, and what opportunities do you see that we can tap into right now as small business owners, or even medium business owners?
Well, first of all, I would like to say that I am not unique in having built a business during a time of recession. And I think it's important for you to know that most people of my generation, that is people who came into the market the late 1980s, mid to late 1980s, and most of the 1990s, built our businesses during times of difficulty. Throughout that time, Nigeria was not growing at a fast rate. Oil prices were very low. We had devaluations almost every year. We had very high interest rates. And for us, that kind of economy was normal. All right. It is, I think in the years 2005, 2010, that Nigeria became a powerhouse, that exchange rate stability was there. And for those of us who started in the tough times, we actually found the 10-year period, 2005 to 2015, I think we envied many of your generation who we felt were having it very easy, frankly speaking, So I'm speaking about for myself, but also for others who did just as well, many even far better than I have done. And I think that the first thing for all of us is that you made sure you had a business plan and you had an execution plan that ensured that you were always growing faster. You were growing faster than the devaluation expectation. So by that I meant that you had a plan that said, if we're going to be devaluing by 10% a year, I must be growing by 20% a year. And you built that into your plan. So you really were very aggressive in your growth ambitions. That's number one that I think is very important for people to understand. The second thing is that for all of us, you also made sure that you had a very lean organization, right? And most of us who were started out in business, our original offices were often not as luxurious. Okay, they were not as fancy as a lot of offices that I see people starting with today. All right, so you made sure that your initial capital costs, they were as lean as possible. You started small. You had the minimum number of people that you had to hire. All right, and our expectations as to how much people should be paid when they started were not as high as later on. And therefore, you found that if you had a very lean organization, you had a plan that assumed a certain growth rate. We never borrowed money in dollars. We always borrowed in naira. Our sense always was that borrowing in dollars is a big mistake. And we very, very much focused on our customers. And we did everything possible to be as close to our customers as we could, to market them and to produce services or goods that we were comfortable that our consumers would accept. Those were the basic things that we did, and quite a few of us were reasonably successful in that strategy. FSDH was very much like that. We were on we started off with less than one floor. We had about maybe 10 to 15 members of staff. We created a set of services that at the time other people had not thought about. So the idea that produce something that is not in the market, try to be ahead of your time, try to anticipate what people want and give that to them with a low margin for yourself, but a high volume of things that you can do. That was very much the FSDH formula, and it's a formula that over the years has consistently worked.
Wow. Thank you very much, sir. So also another question I'd like to ask, still with small businesses, how should businesses respond to this crisis? So what are some of the things that they can do to stay afloat?
All right. I'll answer this question at length, because when you're in a crisis, there's several things you're doing at the same time. Okay, and so let me just run through a lot of some of them. Now, obviously, depending on the specific business that you're in, there are some specific requirements of each business. So I will just talk about the things that they have in common. Okay, the solutions that are in common to all of them. The first thing I think is important, and I need, it's an obvious thing to say, but I will still say it, is that you as the leader, as the head of that place, you must be calm. All right, and people panic when there's a crisis. You have got to be very, very calm. Okay, and you then have to probably set up a crisis task force. All right, and that crisis task force has to look at 3 or 4 elements. All right, one is there's got to be somebody that is just focusing on health. That is, how do we get our workforce, our employees, how do we keep them healthy and how do we keep them safe? So somebody has got to focus on that in your crisis team and be looking at that continuously. That's one. The second is that somebody has to be rigorously focused on finance. In this situation, cash is king. So a lot of what you are going to be doing is going to be ensuring that you do not run out of cash. All right? And therefore, everything that is not absolutely required, all right, you must cut. You must not be spending. Because if you assume that the crisis may last for 6 months, you may find that it lasts for 12 months. If you think that it was going to last for 9 months, maybe for 18 months. If you have made an assumption that customers will return to buying your products in a year's time, it may be a year and a half time. So therefore, cash is king, and the conservation of the cash is crucial to everything you are doing. Then the third person on that in that task force is going to be the person who is looking at your supply chain. That is, what are the items that I need from other customers or from other companies? Because they're important to the business I'm building. And you've got to be able to ensure that you are getting those supplies regularly, right? So that's the third. And then the last one that's important is the other side of that. That is my customers. What are their problems? How can I address their problems? So that's your crisis team. Somebody in finance, somebody at health, somebody looking at your inputs, and then somebody looking at your customers. So that's one. Then the next thing I think you need to be doing at this time is you need to be examining all your legal contracts, because this is going to be a time at which everybody is trying to ditch you. Everybody who's made a commitment to you has a problem, and they're trying to make sure that that problem is yours and not theirs. So therefore, in that situation, you're looking at your contracts to make sure, all right, that where you can declare force majeure, where you have a reason not to act in a manner that loses you money, you are legally able to do so. And at the same time, you want to be in a position in which you can require others, okay, to honor their contracts. So you have to be very close to your lawyers, looking at your contracts and seeing what you can and what you cannot do. Then, next issue you're going to be doing is that, of course, as much as possible, you are trying to see, is everybody in my organization, is that person necessary? This is not a time at which you can afford, because we feel sorry for somebody, to carry somebody who is really not doing their work. It's not a time for that. You've got to be as lean as you possibly can. Now, while you are enforcing remote working, right, the thing you've got to understand about remote working is that when people work remotely, it is even more important that the specific roles and responsibilities of each individual, they are very clearly outlined and clearly understood. When all of you are working together in an office, it's easier to allow a little bit of overlap between what A does or B does. There's some confusion between that. You can sort it out by just walking down the room and say, no, 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 you do this, you do this. But when one person is dialing in from Surulere, another person is dialing in from Yaba, another person is dialing in from Lekki, roles, responsibilities must be very, very clear. All right. So you'll find that in these circumstances as well, because you're very busy dealing with the immediate, you've also got to have one or two people who are, in a sense, thinking through what is the plan for the future. Okay. We are working at two levels. One level is, how do I survive this crisis? Then plan B is, or the second aspect of the plan is, what is my long-term solution? And the critical question that you need to ask yourself about the long-term solution is, look, is this a business that I can continue by making changes to what I'm doing? Is this a business that after the crisis is over will be restored to being a good business to be in? Or is this a business that, listen, it doesn't have a future? I should be blunt with myself, all right? Exit that business, conserve the cash I have, and start thinking about something else to do, or start saying to myself, maybe I should leave the small business that I'm in and go back to paid employment. All right? So these are the hard questions that you ask yourself. And I'd like to finally say to you that for those of you who are married, this is not a time for you to be concerned with when husband and wife are coming back from work. You should just be very happy that two salaries are coming in, and therefore husbands should be encouraging their wives in their work and in their career, because their contribution is crucial to the success of both of you. I'll just end by saying that decision making, when there's a lot of uncertainty, is not easy. All right? That's why I started by saying you must be calm. Now, you don't have all the facts. You don't know what the future holds, but you still have to take a decision. The only thing that is a bit different is that when you make decisions in uncertainty, you take the decision, you begin to implement. But you are watching and you are monitoring. And you are ready to adjust that decision if it's beginning to look as if you may have made a mistake. You shouldn't feel bad about having to shift, to take a new path, because you are always having to decide without all the information because of the high level of uncertainty.
That was some serious knowledge, right, and wisdom and everything. Like, we literally need it. Like, so many people here, are business owners, professionals. We needed to actually hear these things from somebody who has been through recession. I still have another question for you, and
Yes.
this is focused on women. So I'm very passionate about women empowerment. I've done so many things, throughout the years, to empower women and all of that. And we have a community called AGS Tribe where we connect women to each other and to opportunities. And we've been saying, CBN is doing this company is doing that, but we haven't really seen anything really focused on women. So what are you doing, to make sure that, women are still being, taken care of? What are you going to be? What are your plans to help female small business owners in these times?
Well, two things I'll just say is that FSDH, which you talked about, will be coming out with a number of programs and a number of products very much dedicated to supporting women and supporting women in their businesses, advising them in their businesses, and seeing where they can give them financial support for their businesses. FSDH will definitely be doing that. But I have to say that, in fairness, I'm already doing that because they say charity begins at home, but I'm already a very strong supporter of my daughter, Yasmin, and her partner, Afua, who have this organization called She Leads Africa, which has been dedicated to promoting entrepreneurship among young women all over Africa. I support that. I continue to support it. And I very much believe that women are probably the very best entrepreneurs around because they have the ability to take risks at the same time as keeping calm, at the same time as being cautious, and they tend not to throw caution to the winds and take unrealistic big bets like a lot of us guys tend to do. I will continue to support She Leads Africa, and FSDH will continue to support female businesses.
Okay. I hope AGS Tribe will also be receiving support from FSDH as well.
Oh, you make such a good pitch that I will find it impossible to say no to your request.
Yay! Yeah, thank you very much, sir. So thank you so much for coming on this call. I'm sure so many people have a lot of questions. So you can put up your questions in the comments, and I'll just be reading out to him so that he can respond to all your questions. Actually a huge follower of She Leads Africa. They've done a good job so far in promoting women, educating women on businesses, on different things. And I've also been one of their influencers for some of their projects. So I really, really love what they're doing. Yeah.
Excellent. Well done.
So we'll continue to support women.
Yes, well done.
Thank you very much, sir. So guys, you can put in your questions, and I'll just read it out to him. I'll also scroll up to see some of the questions because people have been sending in questions. Okay, guys, put in your questions. Okay, so someone is saying, what business opportunities do you see coming from this?
All right. Well, there are 2 or 3 areas that I would recommend. All right. I recommended them in a talk I gave in the Middle East last year, and the events that have occurred in the first few months of this year, to me, have only strengthened my belief in those areas. And 3 areas that I'll talk about to you is 1, the area of technology, telecommunications, and media. I believe that is going to be, it's a growth area. I think it's going to continue to be a growth area. The fact that we are conducting an interview over Instagram on mobile phones says something. 10 years ago, this would not be occurring. I think that we're going to see the delivery of a lot of health products, education, diagnostic tests, all over computers and mobile phones. And I think that one other thing that is particularly good about this technology area for young people is that old has-beens like myself don't understand anything about it. So you guys who are much younger than us, you have a tremendous advantage over us. All right. The initial sums of money for the investment are not as huge as going into manufacturing. So I would very, very much advise that technology, telecommunications, fintech as a big growth area. That's number 1. Second area, and this area will grow even larger as we see pressure on the currency, is going to be the area of agriculture and food. Now here, I have to be honest and say that it's not an area that I've done very much at myself, all right? But there's no doubt in my mind that the area of agriculture is going to be, is an area that people need to be in. And there are many sections within it. There's the production, there's the marketing, there's the distribution. There are those who are setting up the technological platforms within which trading can be done. But that's a second area I would strongly recommend. And then the third area, they're kind of related. That is the areas of health, all right, and education. I think that people are going to be looking at cheaper ways of imparting knowledge and training, all right? And then, of course, as a result of this pandemic, the whole issue of health security, how do we dispense health services to millions of people is going to be at the top of every country's agenda. I don't know whether somebody noticed recently, either the United States or Great Britain, they all of a sudden stopped complaining about Nigerian doctors, and they now started offering visas and for Nigerian doctors. But I think that domestically in Nigeria, we have not given respect. We have not given respect, appreciation. We have not paid our doctors, our nurses, our health workers well or sufficiently. We've not paid them anywhere near where they should be. And I think that that's something that has to change. And I think that there will be more and more recognition in the next coming years of healthcare related businesses. Those are the areas that I would very much focus on as winners.
Thank you very much, sir. Someone is asking, what are your thoughts on investing in Euro bonds? And would you rather keep your money in bonds or mutual funds?
I will give, for now, just a tentative comment and say that my initial reaction will probably be, I feel safe in Euro bonds. But that said, I will say that every basic assumption or everything that you were taught about investments has probably or maybe upturned by what has happened in the last couple of months. All right? And your ideas as to what was absolutely safe has changed. So, for example, I think that we all thought that government bonds were as safe as you can get. All right? But the levels of money that governments are going to have to borrow, all right, in order to assure liquidity during this huge period, okay, they are going to be so large that whether or not a government bond can be that instrument that you can simply accept and know there's no problem, I don't know whether it's going to be like that. So I'm saying yes, that's my initial reaction. Bonds are probably safer, while saying that that's probably a question that you should ask me maybe in about 3 or 4 months' time when things have settled and we can then look back.
Okay, thank you very much.
If I may make a plug, I would suggest that you contact FSDH Bank on Instagram and ask them that question. They will probably give you a better informed answer than I can.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, sir. Someone is also asking, your daughter actually, what are the best ways to mitigate FX issues? This for my
I don't know why you're accepting a question from my daughter since you can ask me directly. So can you move on, please? Can you move on?
Okay. So he's saying, what lessons did you learn from banking and telecommunications?
Okay. I think from banking, the one thing I did learn was just the difficulties of borrowers. All right, the difficulties of borrowers, and the fact that if you are in a high interest rate environment that we are in, essentially you have got to really have a business plan that is very solid in order to enable you to borrow, to repay the amounts that you borrowed. I think I learned from it as well that there are big gaps in that market. We very much, it's a very short-term market. We need long-term loans. We don't have sufficient long-term loans. So if anything, my experience of banking just taught me, in some senses, the gaps and the inadequacies of banking within our particular environment and the need for us to extend it. In the area of telecommunications, I think the thing I learned there is just the tremendous things that technology can do, and how it can affect so many aspects of our lives, and how it is an opportunity for African countries to leapfrog a lot of countries in Europe in these areas. I always find it fascinating when I have a bank card from Nigeria, I'm traveling, a transaction has been made, I'm pinged immediately. I'm with American friends of mine, and they don't get that immediate ping that I get. And it's nice to know that on some things we're ahead of the United States and we're ahead of Europe. That's one of the things I learned from that.
Thank you, sir. Someone is asking, how does Nigeria intend to foray into 5G to ensure that privacy, both on an individual and government level, are preserved and kept sacrosanct?
Yes, I think that at some point the government is going to have to ask for bids for people who want 5G spectrum. I think we're going to have to do that soon. Those bids will come from the largest existing mobile companies. I don't know whether any others outside of that will do that. What I think has to be done, though, at the same time, is that we have seen the allocation of spectrum as purely a function or responsibility of the National Communications Commission. I think that we've got to see it now as something that involves the legal section of government, the health section of the government, all right? In the sense that it is the legal section of the government and the NGOs concerned with privacy who have to start getting involved in what are the rules, all right? What are the data protection laws? What are the things that we have to put in terms to protect our privacy? So these can be written into the documents and the regulations under which telecoms companies can roll out their 5G networks. So that has to be done. They're not easy questions, and one of the things about the pandemic is that it is going to make issues of privacy even more complicated. I mean, I don't know whether some of you have heard of somebody who's working on this application that with your mobile phone, you might be able to tell whether there's a person in your vicinity who is corona positive. Now, the impact on that, on your privacy and issues like that, is tremendous. So I do think that that when those bids come up for 5G, that the government should, in a sense, open it to the public for the public to give its views on the privacy laws in particular.
Thank you very much, sir. Someone else is asking, what kind of infrastructure needs to be designed to support education? Like we've seen it, education has been disrupted, and I hope it hasn't been disrupted forever. Like kids are at home, parents are busy, and they cannot really homeschool their kids. So what can we do in the medium term to actually help, the educational sector? Because we know that that's the sector where we've really been, lagging behind in Nigeria. So, and right now, with all that is going on, it really, really affects the educational sector. So what are some of the things that we can design in the medium term or short term, to ensure that education still goes on as usual?
Well, I think that we are going to see more online training than we had before. That's very much going to be the wave. And I think that education is probably going to be divided into two aspects or two areas. One area is what you call straight out training, all right, which is largely vocational, a set of accounting rules which you learn about, a set of some laws laws and regulations which you understand, some basic mathematics, etc., etc., etc. And that kind of basic training, I think, will occur online very much. And then I would say there are those aspects of your education which in some degree requires a certain debate, a discussion, and some face-to-face communication, all right, which is part of your education. So your education is part of socialization, the socialization aspect of it, and there's also a training aspect of it. And I think that we will still need bricks and mortars for schools because that socialization aspect is important. And just learning to understand that there are different views from yours and learning to understand all the different ways of looking at things. I think that's a very important part of education. Now, for Nigeria, if we are to expand the number of people who can be trained, all right, and who can be trained so that they can make a contribution within a modern economy, critical is electricity and our internet services. And so if there's a thing that I'm anxious about, is that Nigeria, with its huge gas reserves that in 20 years' time may not be available for exports because climate change is going to mean that the hydrocarbon era may end earlier than we want or than we would like. But that gas can be used very much to fueling the power sector. And
the phone might cut off now. I just wanted to say something quickly. The phone might cut off now, but we're going to come back. So you guys don't go anywhere. We're going to come back now because Instagram literally only gives you 1 hour, but we'll come back and continue with the questions. So just in case the phone cuts off while he's still explaining his response.
Okay. Yes. All right. So therefore, if we can focus on electricity, we can focus on the internet services, then we're in a position in which we can have an education like the African Leadership University, for example, and other educations, or like the Bridge Academy, which are organizations that use technology to give education to large groups of people at low costs.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. So I'm sure the thing will cut off now, so I'll just go off and come back.
All right then. Thank you very much indeed.
See you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for coming back. Okay, welcome guys, welcome. Thank you. I'm just waiting for him to come back. Thanks guys, I see you. AGS Travers in the house. Yes, I saved the first one, so it's gone up. So I'm sure you guys can still watch it. Okay, I see he's back. Yay! Fantastic. Thank you, Adesua.
Hello.
Yes, we're back.
Great.
Thank you so much, sir. Okay,
thank you very much.
Some more questions have come in, and I'm actually very excited about this particular question because I have a series about this particular topic. So someone said you should share some of your failure stories, like some of the things that have happened, some challenges that you faced on your way, and how you've been able to bounce back.
All right then. I think the most painful failure, one of the most painful failures I experienced was the setting up of my first of a finance house called KMC. I had been in the oil business for many years, and I'd done very well there. I'd done fairly well in that business, and I think that there's a tendency when you've done well in a particular area to assume that you can do well in any other area, and not to quite understand that each area has its own peculiarities, and that even if you are particularly well versed in area A, when it comes to area X or Y, you can be a complete child. All right, and so I went into this venture. The venture was a failure. I made lots of mistakes in it. I lost a lot of money, shall I say. It was, however, a good experience, painful at the time, but it was humbling. I think it's important in life that you have one or two failures, because nothing teaches you better than the pain of a failure. You shouldn't have too many of them, because too many of them, too many is crushing and threatens you with complete bankruptcy. And part of the reason why I am so excited about FSDH Bank was that it's a business that I started after my failure at KMC, and there's nothing nicer and sweeter and nothing you appreciate more than after you have had a great failure to then follow it up with a success. When you follow up, you are more agile, you are more thorough, you take more time studying the area, you make more of an effort to recruit the best people, you probably listen much more, you work longer hours, and you are constantly worrying that something might go wrong. And frankly speaking, that slight paranoia is probably a good thing, because it keeps you along the long and hard road. So that is one failure that I had, and did me a lot of good.
Okay, so how were you able to bounce back from that? So
how you bounce back? I think that whenever something goes wrong like that, you sort of sit back and you take stock, and you assess what went wrong. And then there's always the question: do you go again for something in that particular area, or do you sort of say to yourself, never again the area of finance, and just go back to the petroleum that you were doing before? That was very much the issue for me. And I think that I was very fortunate in that during that period, I was working with some very bright, very able people. I can name them: Mr. Femi Agbaje, Mr. Nigel Lardner, and people like that. And then we worked very hard to then set up or think about a new kind of institution that we thought would be successful, and having taken stock from that, we then set up FSDH, which was a great success.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay, someone else is asking, are you reducing or increasing your investments in Nigeria at this time?
Am I? Say that again, please.
Are you reducing your investments or increasing your investments in Nigeria at this time?
That's not a fair question. All right, it's not a fair question, because I think that okay. Let me. I'll address that in two ways. Now,
Okay.
there's the question: am I increasing or reducing my investments in Nigeria because they're in Nigeria, as opposed to the rest of the world? And that's what I'll say to you is that I haven't been thinking that way. I just tend to think in terms of a balance. I tend to always want to have some investments in Nigeria. All right. It's an area that I know very well. Yes, it does have a soft currency, and that can be a problem. But it's also an area in which you can begin and you can grow very fast if you have the right product. I always try to have some investments that are outside of Nigeria, because that is a different kind of environment, different risks, and in a sense, one is a hedge against the other. So that's one question. However, I'm now 65 years of age, and when you're 65, you tend not to have as many 10-year business plans as when you were 25 or 35. I'm probably not investing in as many things now as I was, say, 20 years ago, but that's not a Nigeria versus a broad thing. It's more the particular time of my life.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Someone else is asking, why did you leave the oil and gas sector?
Why did I leave the oil and gas sector? I think it had to do, I'd been there for about 10 years, I think. No, how long had I been there? I started in 1980, was in the government in 86. I kind of left 94. So I've been there for about 15 years. That was quite long.
Okay.
I'm a restless person by nature. um, um, if United Bank of Africa was not as all-consuming as it was, and it was all-consuming in the sense that it was bankrupt when we took it over, and it required my full attention. Okay, if it had not required so much attention, it's possible that I may have been chairman of the board of the bank and still kept my hand in the oil and gas business. So I'd say it was a combination of restlessness, done that before, done it over and over again, wanted new challenges, and but the new challenges that I was in, while they were good and interesting and profitable challenges, made it difficult for me to do both at the same time.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Someone is asking about the fashion industry. That what's the hope for the fashion industry? Because right now people are not really going out as much. So what kind of things should they prepare for? You know, what's the next step for them? Do you have any advice?
Look, I believe that the fashion industry is another great growth area. And I think that the key thing for us to do is that we've got to have a fashion industry that, one, looks at the domestic market, but I think there's also a fashion industry, a fashion business in Nigeria that is looking at the continent of Africa, and also some that's looking for the whole of the world. Just as there was a time at which artworks were sold only to a very small group of people in Nigeria who were interested in it. I think what we're seeing gradually over time is that art was being sold in large numbers within Nigeria, and now we're seeing that Nigerian art is being sold in the whole of the world. Now, I think the same thing. I think we have some remarkable young fashion designers in Nigeria. We have remarkable music players. And I think that for the fashion industry, the art industry, the cinema industry, these are all industries in which I think that it's a matter of time before young Nigerians burst into the international scene and become major international players. And that's the direction I think we should be going.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Someone's asking, what's your view on crowdfunding as an alternative finance option?
Oh, I think it's a good idea. I mean, it's a good idea. It's proven to be successful, and I support its continued growth, and I would ask any young person to seek to benefit from that particular area.
Okay, someone is asking, do you think the maritime industry will survive this?
That's a tough one. The maritime industry is partly about our regulations, all right? It's not about our regulations, and in fact, it's also about the agility and the determination of those who are players there right now. As is the case with most businesses, a maritime industry will do well if the players there are lean, efficient, and deliver value for the services. Now, as is the case in so many industries in the last couple of years, you could do well even if you were expensive and even if you were providing less than stellar service. Now, that's gone, that's going. No doubt about that. And therefore, I think the same applies to the maritime industry. I think that shipping companies that have good ships are very efficient. They will do well. They will survive, and they will do well.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Someone is also asking, do you agree with multiple businesses or multiple streams of income, or should you just focus on one business and make sure it grows and grows and grows before you move to the next one?
I don't think it's possible to answer that question. I will just share my own experience about it. I found that in my first few years, um, you often have to try several things at the same time. Not quite sure which one is going to be successful, and then narrow down to one and go after that one. I think that once you have mastered that particular one, you will inevitably find that you want to do something additional. All right, and it can be something that is additional because it's ancillary to what you're already doing. All right, or it's something that is completely different. So in a sense, you have two very different types of businesses. I've seen some people who have focused on one and done one all their lives. All right, there's many people like that, and those people who have bounced around from place to place and done different things. I'm much more of the second type. I can't really say that one works and one does not work. I think it's very, very much a case of your personality, what makes you tick, uh, and how you are.
Thank you very much for that response. Because what I always say, because people ask me this question a lot, and they say, "Oh, if you're doing so many things at the same time and all of that," and I say to them, I say, right now you can see that I'm doing so many things because social media is letting you see it. Well, back in
Yes,
the day when there wasn't social media,
correct.
people were trying their hands in different things and all of that, and there was no pressure. The one that
Yep.
they think that you're doing well, they now focus on it, and
Yes.
But I'm very happy that you clarified that. There's
Yes.
no
Yes.
cast in stone answer. It depends on your
No,
personality.
not at all, and not at all, and if there are risks to just doing one thing. I mean, were there those companies? I think they were just doing this business that involved motorcyclists in Lagos, the Okada drivers, and then a
Yes.
regulation comes in and just takes you out of that business. So there is a risk to just doing one thing and nothing else, because a decision by the government, a new regulation, can just take you out, and there you are, fully invested, no alternative, and you have a problem.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, I'll take one more question.
Yes. Okay, that's
Right?
fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. And this is the final one. I'm very happy that this is the final one. So the last question is, how do you keep developing yourself with the many demands of running your businesses?
Well, I'll say that one is that I've been very fortunate in that in most of my businesses, I have had, and I still have, very able people who are involved in them and who are running them. Selecting able people is the condition for your sanity. All right? You don't want to get to 65 and you're working morning, afternoon, and evening. All right? And the only way you can get to that stage is if you have good people running the things that you're doing. So I've been very fortunate about that. So I don't have to spend as much time as I did, say, 20 years ago. And I think that the one of the things that I wish I had done more of was that when I was in my 30s and in my 40s, I didn't go for as many training courses, and I would encourage all young people to go on a lot of training courses. Instead, I was fortunate, I was able to hire somebody who knew a lot about an area that I was interested in and had that person kind of teach me. But it's not as good as going for the course yourself. So I'd very much encourage people to keep on upgrading themselves by reading, by going on courses, so they have an up-to-date understanding of the latest techniques. Now that I'm in my 60s, one of the areas that I'm developing myself in, funnily enough, is in the teaching that I'm now doing at Harvard Business School. I say that I'm developing myself because, on the one hand, I am sharing my experiences and I'm teaching, but on the other hand, I have to say that from the questions, from the comments, from the responses from the students, it is also an education for me as well, and it's also improving me in that sense. It is in the same sense that I have found this 1 hour and 20 minutes that we have spent together. It has also been very educational for me. The questions have been very stretching, as I've been looking at the screen, I'm really, I keep seeing more and more questions coming up, and I'm actually quite relieved that some of the more difficult ones that you have skipped in order to spare.
Wow. So thank you very, very much. I'm really, really honored that you took time out of your very, very busy schedule to educate us on all of this. Like I said earlier, you could have been anywhere else. And I understand that you're also grieving. May your friend's soul rest in peace.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much, sir, for honoring our invitation. I'm sure we're all very excited. I'm sure you've received so many DMs after this, rather than direct messages, and I'm sure I'll also receive them. And I'm really, really honored. Thank you very, very much for honoring our call.
And on my side, I would very much like to thank my son-in-law who runs a company called Verdant Homes, very interested in the real estate, for persuading me to come and be on this occasion. As you know, I think this is the very first thing that I've ever done. So I thank my son-in-law, Chopper Dekwaya, for that. Wish him good luck in his property business. I thank my son, who is now my technical advisor, and for also being very encouraging. And I also like to thank Sheets Africa and FSDH Bank and all they're doing on Instagram as well for pushing me to do that. On your side, you have been a great moderator and interviewer. I think in 2 or 3 weeks' time, I think I'm moderating a panel that is going to be looking at the corona virus issue, the informal sector and government's responses, and I will share with you all the links to it so that you and members of your audience can join us as well in that discussion.
Oh, for sure.
Well done. Well done.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Right, sir. Okay. So I'm going to end the call now. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you for being an amazing sport. Thank you for sending all your amazing and intelligent questions. So, bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.